Okay, this is a few minutes of me rambling about something. So, I have a TV. And it's... So yes, there's a TV. And there's shelves, there's Lego, there's books. One of the prime reasons for the TV was that it was thin and I could mount it very close to the wall. That's... Yes.
So obviously it's not a plasma.
No, it's an LCD. And it is connected to some storage. So initially I was using a Western Digital box to play stuff off network shares. And that was fine until I tried to skip forward or skip backwards. And it just doesn't support skipping. You can fast forward or you can rewind. It was just annoying. So I started thinking about other options. So there's Windows Media Center, Mr. TV, or even just Xbox Media Center. But it's like I would have to put a PC under the TV. Like, effort. And I realised the TV supports good old DNLA, which is really UPnP, sort of, kind of, vaguely. And then after trying a few, I found PS3 Media Server, which is a UPnP DNLA compliant media server designed for the PS3, but works with other devices. So I can run that and get this big error saying, oh, you don't have a PS3. But it still works. And it worked very well. Like AVIs, it just played them straight to the TV. I forgot what my next slide was. Oh yes. AVIs, it would have worked fine. But if I have an NKV, at first it wouldn't play it. Installed a memcoder, it would then transcode it on the fly. Because this let me skip, so I could jump forward, jump backwards. So that was the reason why I ended up settling on that one.
So what's that error message coming from? What's that running?
Oh, that's on my Linux box.
Oh, okay, right. So you're just running it on your Linux box instead of a PS3. Yeah.
Well, it runs on a Linux Windows or Mac, serving the media to the PS3.
Oh, right. So the server always runs on the Linux box, but it normally expects the PS3 as a client. But in this case, you're using the TV as a client instead.
Yeah.
And
So the TV, there's even detected Windows box down the bottom there.
Gotcha.
So that's what sharing.
So the TV is the unknown renderer.
No, I think that's my phone. The TV doesn't show up.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. It's basically I installed this. It worked.
Sure.
I left it.
Nice.
So AVIs, it just sends them to the TV, and the TV, which was the other nice thing about the TV, it did support a bunch of media formats. But MKVs didn't work. So basically, PlayStation Media Server didn't know what it was and would try and transcode it into some form of MPEG on the fly, which completely screwed up skipping forward and backwards. You'd say, skip forward 30 seconds. You would sit there for about 5 minutes, try to, and eventually skip forward 30 seconds. But if I put the MKVs on a USB stick and plug them directly into the TV, it played fine. So it's like, the TV supports it. So I just got to trick PS3 Media Server into thinking they're just AVIs. And it was like, I thought, oh, okay. Then I started looking, oh no, it's Java, it's Java config. It's like, yeah. Someone at work had mentioned Fuse, that he was writing a Fuse wrapper for iView. It's like, yeah, maybe I could write a Fuse wrapper that proxies the local file system and just changes the extensions on the fly. Which actually, so yeah. So there's...
Can you use the MyPub?
No. Well, that would have gone into the PS3 config, which I didn't want to do. And I didn't want to permanently rename the files because I wanted to know that they were MKVs.
Well, you'll know when you do a file on them anyway.
You can do it.
Yeah, I don't do that though.
You can actually do a quick remux as well to transport stream, which will go right through.
Yeah, but it doesn't even need to remux it though, because the TV accepts the original transport stream, it just doesn't realise it.
Oh,
if the server doesn't
run a transport.
Yeah. So then some of the work was playing with Fuse or something. So this is Fuse, file system and user space. Basically lets you write a file system in whatever you want. And
so you wrote one in Perl. So
yes, someone's nicely made a Fuse module for Perl. There's also a Fuse class, which is what I actually ended up starting to use, but probably didn't need to. This wraps the Fuse interface, which with the normal Fuse one, there's a main function. It's not called main, called something else. Basically, you give it a bunch of callbacks to do all the different things. With Fuse class, you basically just define methods to do all the different things. However, the key was this is the main Fuse distro on GitHub. The examples. Basically, if you want to do something, look at the examples, because I spent a few hours trying to work out why mine would work. I looked at the example loopback.pl and copy paste, it works. So now, MKBs work fine if they're pretending to be AVIs. But then I thought, what if I just didn't flip the extension? What if I automatically generated an A to Z index, or even a year index? So the files are just dumped in a directory with something, then when they're displayed, shared to the TV, I show it as a directory structure, which is what's in here.
So you synthesize a directory structure for the TV to see?
So in here, if I go into mount here, so I'll just show you. There's some movies, there's a folder called To Watch, which happens to have a whole bunch of stuff. But in this mount directory, if I go into A to Z, I can type today, I can't. There's a nice little A to Z index for me. And it's like, there's all the ones starting with A. So it's much easier to go to on the TV interface. And the same with the year. Year, and I'm going to pick a year. And there's some 2011 movies, you know. And that's just all done based on the file name format. And the actual code for it is very rough, very horrible, but a lot smaller than I thought it would be, and I've forgotten what the thing's called. Called proxy or translate, maybe translate, proxy, translate, I think, movies. I did promise some minutes of rambling. So, yeah, don't look too closely at it, but the key, when you're setting it, you set up, the fuse methods are things like this, getDir, which gets called with a path, and then you have to figure out what to return. So if you're asking for a slash, return ... A to Z year and To Watch, and then 0 saying there was no error. If it's saying, A to Z, we'll work out what the indexes are, return them plus the things. So there's getDir, getAttra, which is getting the attributes of a file. Because basically it eventually boils down to all this stuff is translating what's been requested into a real file, and eventually somewhere like here, line 224, it's return stack of the real path for the file. And open, still the same. This is where I started just copying stuff out of the example script. And sort of go, open, it gets a path of flags, and it tells you if it can open it. Read, it gets a path buffer and an offset, and you return the data in the file at that offset. So you do need to think about file system, low-level file system stuff, but not really to that much detail. And there we go, that's kind of it.
Cool, thank you very much.
Very good.
Sure, were there any questions?